It seems like now everybody is blaming everything from like city potholes to like inconvenient wait times at the self-checkout, all on Justin Trudeau. And I've heard you speak on other interviews where you're trying to educate people on what the responsibility is of different levels of government and who we should be really mad at. So I have a couple of, I have a game for us.
Okay.
I'm calling it the blame game.
All right.
And I have a couple scenarios for us. And I'm hoping you can tell us who we can be mad at or if we could actually be mad at a PM for this.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Sounds
So
good.
if I'm angry that my boyfriend won't propose, is that a fuck Trudeau moment?
I don't think so.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I think it would be pretty hard to blame the Prime Minister for that. But what I would say is that if you want your boyfriend to propose, maybe you should propose to him.
Wait, did you propose to your husband?
I did, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
how did you do that?
It wasn't very romantic. It was over the phone, and
Karina, I'm dead. That's so funny.
And I was like, "Oh, I think we should get married," and he was like, "Yeah, it's probably a good idea." And then we got married like a week later.
That was that.
That was
okay.
that.
Did he give you a ring at some point though?
Yeah. I actually have two rings. They're not fancy. They're like, we got married when I was 23 and he was 28.
Okay.
And
you should have married one of Galen Weston's offspring then if you wanted a fancy wedding.
Yeah, we're both like two middle class kids. It was he bought me a nice little ring, and we got married and have been married for a long time.
How long?
I'm trying to remember. We got married in 2010, so it'll be 15 years.
15 years. Okay,
Yeah.
So you're 37 now. So you met him when you were pretty young.
18, yeah. So we're gonna be together for 20 years.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Was there something about him where you were like, "That's my man"?
Yeah, he's great. He's always been someone who's been extremely supportive of me, and just kind of up for whatever adventure I want to go on.
Yeah.
And he's just a wonderful, wonderful person.
It's
Yeah.
crazy that like women are out there just being like, all we want is a man to support us, and guys are like, oh my god, I got a car, like I got like a lot of money. Like, what do you mean? Like, and they're like doing nothing to like actually support or be useful. But they're like, what do you mean? I have big muscles. Like, please. Right?
He's also strong. Yeah.
Oh well,
yeah.
okay. She's living the dream life, you guys. Like, he's strong and nice, like pop off queen. Okay, that's so cool. I love that. And you proposed to him.
Yeah, I mean, was it a proposal or was it kind of like a, hey, I think we should do this?
Like,
yeah,
it was a
agree.
business interaction.
Yeah.
Like, you were like, you sent a calendar invite for a Zoom link, and you were like, hey, babe,
Yeah, there was
marriage?
no Zoom back
Question mark.
then.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it worked out. We're still together. So
Yeah. I love your negotiating skills already.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
afraid to ask for what you want, even if it would maybe even societally be deemed inappropriate.
Yeah, but I think it's 2025. So
Yes.
if you want to get married, ask.
Yes. Yeah. Watch out, Trump. She will propose to you.
Oh, no, I don't think my husband would like that.
No.
or me.
Also downgrade,
Yeah.
like for sure. Okay, let's get back to the blame game. Tell
Okay.
us who in government or what level of government we can be mad at. I don't have a family doctor. Is that an F Trudeau moment? Who can I blame for
No,
that?
that is definitely a Doug Ford moment.
Mm.
Definitely a Doug Ford moment. So the federal government sends money to the provinces through the Canada Health Transfer, but it is the provinces that actually manage and administer the healthcare system. So if you're mad about healthcare in Ontario or anywhere in the country, that is definitely directed to your provincial government.
Okay, so that's I don't see any F Doug Ford flags out there.
I mean, people choose to put their anger where they decide to, but there is an Ontario election going on right now,
Yes.
and so this is actually an important time to think about what matters to you. And if it's healthcare, if it's education, if it's the green belt, those are things that are provincial, and those are decisions from Doug Ford. So
Right.
if you want a family doctor, you should kind of ask Doug Ford
Yeah,
where your
yeah.
family doctor is.
Yeah, and don't forget, guys, to register to vote and to vote in the provincial election. We'll be doing lots of talking about that, I'm sure,
Yeah.
as well. But so it's a provincial problem, and I remember you guys during the pandemic, your government gave a substantial amount of money to the provinces.
A lot.
And there were certain provinces that chose to was it they didn't accept it or they didn't want to spend the money? Like, what exactly happened?
No, I mean, I think they took the money. They just didn't necessarily spend it where they were supposed to spend it. We talk a lot about the size of the federal deficit, but part of that is because we sent a lot of money to the provinces, and the provinces now have better balance sheets because they use the federal transfers to balance their
you
budget.
sugar daddied the provinces.
Yeah, we didn't get much back in
Crazy.
return, and instead they just blame us for everything.
You didn't even get like a bikini pic on the beach from them or something. Like, thanks for the trip. Like,
no. They just like all the things that they're responsible then blamed us for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like crime is another one where, you know, we made bail reform changes to our laws at the federal level, and yet we hear the province like blaming the federal government for these things.
Right.
Whereas, you know, like again, Doug Ford and the provincial government haven't invested in courthouses. They haven't invested in jails. There are people, you know, 3 to a bunk in some of our provincial jails. And so, you know, judges are saying, well, we can't put them in there. So
Right.
they're getting them out on bail. So
Mm-hmm.
again, like a lot of the things in the day to day that people are frustrated with, you know, the prime minister is the prime minister, but he's actually not responsible for everything in Canada.
Damn it.
But
that makes it a lot more complex than who we get angry at.
Yeah, it does. And maybe it's not get angry at, but like use your opportunity to vote to make a difference, right? So like actually listen to what people are putting on the agenda and what their plans are and make your decision based on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Who do I blame for this? I won't have a home till I have dentures. I won't be able to own a home.
Yeah. Okay. There's definitely a mix there, because housing is a bit of a mix of responsibility. But you can probably go back to like the mid 1990s here, in that Canada in general, whether it was the federal government or the provinces and the municipalities, just didn't invest in housing, and kind of got out of the housing game.
Was that because they were too busy like getting chokers and like listening, like watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch, or like what was up with that?
Well, you know, I think there was a moment where the federal government, under Chrétien Martin, were trying to get the federal books back in order, and so they, you know, changed a lot of where federal spending was going, and got out of building housing, and the provinces didn't really step in, and housing was pretty inexpensive for a long time, and then, you know, leading into the financial crash in 2008, you know, we didn't have the same experiences they did in the United States, but again, like the federal government has been absent from housing for a long time. And, you know, Pierre Poilievre likes to say that he was the Minister of Housing. Well, apparently there were only 6 affordable units built during that time, right? So I'm not sure that that's a really good record for him
Doesn't sound
to
like
run
it.
on.
Doesn't sound like it. If Galen only operated 6 Loblaws, we'd all be pretty upset. That wouldn't be a good way of getting our groceries.
Right, but these are like 6 units of housing, right, in the entire country.
Not even 6. Like it was 6 units.
Yeah.
Like 6 people or 6 families.
Like 6 space, like homes to live in, right?
Okay, that doesn't really sound like that benefits a lot of Canadians.
It doesn't, no. So, you know, Harper and Poilievre really stayed out of housing. And then we got back in 2015 and made a lot of investments in refurbishing units, and we've really tried to accelerate it. But again, housing is absolutely a shared jurisdiction with the federal, provincial, and municipal governments. And you could probably blame Doug Ford too, because he got rid of rent control in Ontario. So that has been a huge issue for new builds. And then he's given a lot of money to developers, and created ministerial zoning orders, but they're not necessarily to build like housing at every kind of level along the continuum. It's really like building more $1 million homes that is not necessarily going to help people.
No, I'm going to have to wait for my dentures to get that.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So again, there's a mix of people that you can blame on that one.
Yeah. If you were
conservative politicians are always a good one to blame. So.
Okay. You heard it here first. What would you plan to do for Canada if you were Prime Minister to help with some of the affordability around housing?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to be making an announcement in a couple days on this specifically.
Great.
But, you know, I think it really is about making sure that we are tackling homelessness and we are getting folks on the lower end of the spectrum into housing. And then again, having that real continuum of housing affordability and getting people in at the different spaces where they're able to. I think we have to go big on housing. I mean, it is so important for people to be housed, right? But then also to be able to afford it. I mean, if I talk to my brother who lives, near Trinity Bellwoods, I mean, the amount of money that he's paying for a room,
right? Not even a full apartment,
not an apartment, a room, right, is out of this world. So, I mean, I think for not just young Canadians who are just trying to make ends meet right now, but people throughout their lives, you know, who are trying to stay in the housing market. And I think one of the biggest challenges is too is mortgage rates, right? Since the end of the pandemic. I mean, people they bought houses that were quite expensive, but at very low interest rates. And as those interest rates go up, it's really, really hard for people. Now, those interest rates are starting to come down, so that's a good thing. But there's a lot that we have to do on housing, both in terms of...
This actually makes me never want to own a home. I'm like, interest, like, I don't do math like that, like, this is going to be... I need my boyfriend to propose so he can handle that, because like I'm not the girl for that. I'm not the... Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
You are. You'll be fine. You'll get there.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting, like we were speaking about homelessness, because I know you're from Burlington. I'm from just down the road in Hamilton. Actually, it's where I grew up. Okay. And I've seen just like such a dramatic difference in the city. Of course, there's always been people who didn't have work or didn't have housing in any area of the country, but in Hamilton. And I think it was like around the pandemic, there was a very like stark shift of like, there'd be like some encampments here and there. But now every time I go back to visit family, it seems like every single park has a tent on it. Like it's weird to see a park where like somebody isn't making that their home. Like it's something.
Yeah,
that's really
urgent. I think it's really shocking for Canadians, and so dealing with homelessness again, this is a shared responsibility between cities, the province, and the federal government. But I think we need to really go big on this and say like we should not have homelessness in our country at all, and we need to get people housed. And we also have to understand what some of the underlying reasons for homelessness are as well. So it's one thing to house somebody. It's another thing to make sure that they actually have the supports around them, because it's really expensive for somebody to be unhoused in our country. And the amount of time that they spend in hospitals, the amount of time that they spend in our social services. So let's find a way to actually address kind of the root causes of homelessness and to do this effectively. I mean, the other thing that we saw kind of in the pandemic and post-pandemic is like what used to be more affordable rental units that are now being kind of renovated, and people are being renovicted as well. Like I remember speaking to some housing advocates in Hamilton who were talking about like just the number of people who were renovicted from what were kind of lower cost housing options, and now they just can't stay. So we really have to, take a holistic approach to this. And again, we can only do it in partnership with all three levels of government. But I think there's a really important role for us at the federal level to play. And, if I'm being fair, I think our government has actually taken really important steps in this direction. But there's still a lot more to do.
Much to do. Yeah. When you're talking about kind of like wraparound supports for people, like I presume that would include things like mental health. Yeah. We talk about mental health a lot on this podcast. Are there like specific strategies or policies you would want to implement for? I know health we've already established. I just found out today that family doctors and medicine is provincial, but is there something that you would want to do?
So that is provincial as well in terms of those wraparound supports, but I think there are ways for us to work with the province to say like, here's what we're going to do from the federal level. How can we work together to make sure that those services are provided to people so that we can actually tackle and end the homelessness crisis that we have? Yeah.
Another blame. My Air Canada flight's delayed. Is that a F. Doug Ford moment?
That's actually moment? Not Doug Ford. No. No. that is, it could be weather. Right? It could,
so God?
Yeah.
Like,
it could.
Whoever your God is?
Yeah, exactly. It could be often winter in Canada is to blame for that. But my gosh, the amount of Air Canada flights that I've had that have been delayed.
I imagine you're going back and forth to Ottawa a lot. Yeah. I was in Ottawa earlier this week, and my Porter flight coming back was delayed. Yeah. And like my body went into fight or flight with a 10-hour flight delay. Like I don't know how my ancestors did it, like surviving famine and war, etc. Because like I can't cope. Like how do you manage like the stress of all of that?
I'm pretty zen about it because I fly a lot. Like I back and forth from Ottawa, but also in my ministerial roles around the country. And my way to keep zen about that is I just want to get to where I'm going safely. And so I want to arrive alive. So if the reason for the delay is so that I get there safely, then, I'm very happy with that. And I can always find something to do. I've always got work to do, phone calls to make. So. Yeah.
I really appreciate you. You're maximizing productivity out there. Yeah. And she's chill about even an Air Canada flight being delayed, guys. Okay. Yeah. Find someone else.
I think it's because it happens to me so often that like I don't
You're shocked when it's not delayed. Yeah, you're like, this is weird. Are you
wow,
sure?
We arrived on time. This is great. Yeah.
Who can I blame if just generally the vibes are off in Canada?
Maybe Donald Trump. I don't know. Like Elon Musk. Pierre Poilievre.
Okay,
like,
okay.
Yeah, like I don't know. I get pretty icky vibes. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're big on astrology in the show, and I did find out that Pierre Poilievre and Trump are both Geminis.
Okay.
And so I think we've heard what we need to hear.
Oh.
You know, like that's sufficient. You're a Cancer.
I'm a Cancer.
That's a nice water sign.
Yeah.
What star sign's your husband?
He's a Capricorn.
Oh, that's actually a really good match. I love that. Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it is because you're water.
Yeah,
and he's like
Earth.
Yeah,
land,
yeah.
right?
I'm Earth as well. I'm a Taurus.
Yeah.
So if you ever wanted to date me, if it doesn't work out, then we'd be a good match. Also, maybe I don't know.
That's good.
Okay, another blame. What if if traffic is really bad? Who can I blame for that?
Maybe a mix of like Doug Ford and the city here, but I would say this also probably goes back a really long way. Like I would probably blame the municipal and provincial politicians of the 80s and 90s on this one.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Are they still alive? Like, can I go hunt them down?
Some of them might be, but you know, that was the moment where Canada had a choice to make investments in public transit, and to do that in a big way. And they pivoted and went away from subways and streetcars and went to roads. And again, I have no problem if you want to drive, that's great. But congestion in the GTA is out of this world.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a choice at the time. And so now, you know, having been in government for 10 years, we've been really trying to make these big investments in transit. You know, whether that's subways, LRT, rapid bus lanes, whether it's urban or rural environments, trying to make that more effective for people. But it's a lot more expensive now, and it's a lot harder to do because the city's built up in a different way. So I would squarely put the blame on the politicians in the 80s and 90s who didn't make the investments when they should have.
That's really frustrating. That's not a fuck Trudeau moment. Like it would
Sorry.
be nice to just be able to blame something on like everything on one person, right? Like
he's actually not as powerful as some people think.
Oh,
right? So,
okay.
yeah.
He doesn't have as much power. He has people he has to report to. He has checks and balances in the system.
Well, yeah, Canadians too, right? But also
interesting. So wait, are you saying that the boss of the Prime Minister is Canadians?
Yeah.
Write that down, guys.
Yeah.
Don't forget that when you vote.
Yeah.